Okay, let's do it. We are on Daf Asama Tesam Ralph. Tamatina. 4 lines to the top. 5 lines to the top. Tamatina. We learned over there. Hamoitziyayin. So we takes that wine. The shiur of wine is named Zigas Hakos. Is the amount that this is talking about on Shabbos. The amount of wine which makes you chai for doing Otzah on Shabbos is the amount which is necessary in order to dilute a cup of wine for a kiddush. What's the shiur of a cup of wine? How much wine vis-a-vis water do you need? Amar Lacy said, let's learn that which is not explicit of that which is explicit. The Tani we learned, Rabbi Chia says, Arba Koisa Sharmu Yeshna Revius Yain B'Italki. Among the 4 cups of wine which you're drinking on Pesach night, there has to be a total of Revius wine, but in the Italian measure. So we see that among the 4, there's Revius, a quarter of Revius per cup. Tamati we learned over there. A similar question. Mefanin Afilu Arba Chamesh Kupas on Shabbos was allowed to move in one's warehouse up to 4 or 5 baskets of grain in order to make place. How much is the shiur of each basket? Common Yeshua Shakupa, what's the shiur of basket? Amar Leis, they said, let's learn that which is not explicit and that which is explicit. We learned over there. But Sholosh Kupos, Sholosh, saying Terminus Alishko. If you have 3 baskets, each of 3 measures, that's how you take out the coins from the Lishka, from the proper office of Beis HaMikdash to buy korbanos every year. So we see from that the shiur of a basket is 3 seen. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Blum, Shem, Rabbi Yossi, to Rabbi Yehuda, Shem, Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Yehuda, this shiur of a revius per cup is like Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanya we learned, I still have lost my place. What? Mine. Thank you. Water kedei. Water, the amount which you take out to be chayav on Shabbos is the amount you swallow. Rabbi Yehuda Omer kedei mezigas hamozek, the amount that you carry out in order to dilute a cup of wine. So you see that you dilute wine before you drink it. Mazu b'kama, how do you dilute wine? Ishmini ma'adah. Let's learn from here. Mine kedei gemia, Mike Degmia, Madwar is the amount you swallow. Rabbi Omer Kedei Mezigas Hakos, the amount you need in order to dilute a cup of wine. I have no choice. What am I supposed to do? It's ridiculous. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Kedei Mezigas Hakos, and it says the amount which dilutes a cup of water, cup of wine. Finally, how much is that? Kamashun Shakosis, we keep repeating ourselves. Finally, we get to what the actual shiur is. Rabbi Moramar Tirtoran or Revia, which we understand to mean 3 parts water to try is 3, right? 3 parts water to 1 part wine. You drink all the 4 cups of Pesach in one gulp. From that which we know, we've heard Hallel and Shul, Hallel. Hadamas teaches us just like you yotze with Hallel and Shul, you yotze with drinking all the 4 cups at once. Can you drink it in sips? Says more no. Why do they say you have to drink the wine? Lo sheishtaker. Is it not that you should get drunk? If you drink it in sips, you don't get drunk. You've had this at least 3 times in the Yerushalmi already. Yeah. Well, Shkolim is actually after this, so with Shabbos and the Pesachim and Shkolim. Malo, it says beyond Shashvias. Can it be Yetzi with wine of Shemitah? Tana Rabbi Yoshua to be Shul Shvius. Even though it's not really yours, because it has special Kedusha, nonetheless, you Yetzi with wine of Shemitah. Ma'at says Bekunditon in wine which is spiced. Mimadatari bar kapara kunditin kiyain. Since spiced wine is like wine, Hadam Rayatzi Mekunditon that tells you it can be Yetzi with spiced wine. Ma'at says Mezugi can be Yetzi with wine which is diluted. Mimad the tiny Rabbi Chia, whether they are not diluted or diluted. As long as they have the taste and the look of wine. So it means that diluted, you might say again, shouldn't be too diluted. We paskin that the maximum share of dilution is 1 to 5. Every cup has to be 1/6 wine. The preferable is 1 to 4, but no more than 1 to 6, 1 to 5. Well, sorry, preferable is 1 to 3, no more than 1 to 5 though. No. Yes. For a wine company process. Whatever you get now, if you dilute it even a little bit, you might lose it. I think it's 50% wine, which you get from the wine companies. In which case you can dilute it 1 to 2, but not beyond that. Great. So says Gemara further. Mitzvah says behind a dome, it's best to use red wine. Do not look at wine because it's red, so we say that wine should be red. You're allowed to cook the wine today, tevel. Udumalt gives it a special spice taste, even though you don't have to put in spices. Ma'ot says behind bushel can be yetzi with wine which is cooked. Rabbi Yerushalmi Amar yetzi am bushel, yes. Rabbi Yerushalmi is like his line of reasoning to Rabbi Yerushalmi Shasi Arbakasi Leila Pischa. Rabbi Yerushalmi, when he drank the 4 cups of Pesach, not from cooked wine, the chazik ratio had a tzarta, he had a headache till Shavuos. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Eloi Shasi Arbakasi Leila Pischa, he drank 4 cups of Pesach night, the chazik ratio had chag until Sukkot. Another time, Chamse Yichado Matrona, a certain noble lady saw Rabbi Loi point Aaron and his face was illuminated. She said to him, Saba, old man, Chadami Tlas Mili, you're so happy? Well, I must have one of the 3 following things. Chadami Tlas Mili Isbach. O Shasi Chamor, or either you're drunk, or Mavaribisat, or Mavaribis, or you are somebody who loans money at interest, and therefore you've made a lot of money, or at Megadal Chazir, or you are a pig cultivator, and that is why you made a lot of money. You have one of these 3 things, otherwise you wouldn't be so happy. May your spirit explode. To saw this woman. Hadah, the fact that my face is illuminated, Chada mean Elaine. Not one of these things. From these 3 things, lay speed. I don't have any of them. Or rather, why am I happy? Because I learn constantly. The knowledge of an individual illuminates his face. Rabbi Avo asked it very. Rabbi Avo Ketet Veria. How Chamuni Tamuni Rabbi Yochanan, the students Rabbi Yochanan saw him up in the ear, and he was very happy. Armin Kumi Rabbi Yochanan, they said Rabbi Yochanan, Ashkach Rabbi Avo, Sima, he probably found the treasure. Amar Lon, so Rabbi Yochanan said to him, Lama, said to him, why? Amar Lon, Amar Lon, Lama? Oh, so he said, what? Yeah, he said then why? Amar Lon, and Lon said, the Talmidim answered, I point the earring, because we saw his face is so happy. Amar Lon, so he said, Yima Raisa Chatzu Shama Shmaitz, so Raisa Chatzu Shama. So Rabbi Yochanan said, no, maybe he heard a new shtickle teicha. Or Solik Rabbi, so Rabbi came to Rabbi Yochanan. Amar Lon, he said, Ma Raisa Chatzu Shmaitza. Shamata, what new Torah did you hear that you're so happy? Amalei said, Tosefta Atika, I heard an old brisa which I had not heard in a long time. The Kara Alei, Rabbi Elon Secretary Avo, Chachmas U'odam Torah Ponav, the knowledge of a person illuminates his face. Rabbi Chida said, Luga da Raisa, the shiur of a log da Raisa, in which there are 4 revi'is, is Tumnasa Atikta Dumaraisa Tziporin. It's the old 8th measure of fish brine in Tzipori. Rabbi Yana said, Chakim on Allah, I know it. The base Rabbi Yana Mechilim Bodvash, and as Rabbi Yana is to measure honey with it. Today we learn Chatzi Shminis Teveriyanis Yishona. It's 1/2 of the old 8th measure of Tveria. Rabbi Yana said, Hada Didon Havos. This measure was our measure. The Lama Amar, it's a mistake, should be Atikta. Why didn't he call it the old measure? Begin, like we said about the one Tzipori, begin the Avsibiyomi because it was still prevalent in his day. These and some say that it wasn't exactly the same that it used to be. The Havazira was smaller, Varabas got larger, the Zirasum got smaller again, the low Ziras Kamadavas, but not to its original small size. Kamashur Shukos, what is the shiur of a cup? Rabbi Yisrael Bar Pazi and Rabbi Yisrael Bumashim, Rabbi Shmuel said, Etzba'im, it's 2 fingers on 2 fingers, al kos in the base of the cup, and Etzba Mechza, and al kos Etzba Mechza, Shlisha Etzba, by the height of 1.83 fingers. So it's 2 by 2 by 1.83. Tani, we learned, Yovesh Kizais, when you dry revi'is, you get a kazais. David Rabbi Nosson, in other words, congealed becomes a kazais. Rabbanan the Kitzon, Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Mishem, Rabbi Yochanan, Asher Rabbi Nosson, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Nosson also Rabbi Shimon, Kumar Rabbi Shimon Amar B'Revi'is. So Rabbi Shimon said the shiur is the revi'is. Cain Rabbi Nosson Amar L'Kshi Kari Shebo Kazais. When you congeal it, it has the shiur of a kazais. So those are the same shiur. Okay, how we go in the Seder of Pesach night? When you pour the first cup, first you make a bracha on the day, the kiddush, and then you make the bracha on the wine. But some in Basil says in first you make the bracha on the wine, and then on the day. My time is Beishami. What side of Beishami that kiddush comes first? The Shekdusha Sayom Garmel Yain Shetavo, because the sanctity of the day causes you to make a bracha on wine. And also that the Kedusha Sayom began before the wine came to the table. What's the svara Beis Hillel? The opposite. The wine causes you to say Kiddush. Another interpretation, the wine is prevalent, and Kiddush is not so prevalent, so therefore, the prevalent thing, you make the bracha on first. Both from Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai we learn. Yain v'avdola, when you have wine and the bracha of avdola, hayayin koidim, you make the wine first. Why? Klum time to Beis Shammai. Why Beis Shammai say make kiddush first? Lo shekdusha yom garmel yain, because the kiddush of the day came before the wine. The Khan here, Hoil, it should be the Pnei Moshe says, v'lo avdola garmel yain shiavo. Here the avdola didn't cause the wine to come. In fact, the way the Pnei Moshe explains it, you already made avdola. You made avdola in davening. So the wine is not linked to Avdolah. The wine is not caused by the Avdolah. On the contrary, you're making a separate Avdolah because Chazal Dafka made a takona to bring wine, even though you already made Avdolah in davening. So here the wine should come first, right? Hayayin koidim. The wine should come first. Similarly, Klum Time Beis Hillel Shayayin Toiv Kedusha and Tira. Why is Beis Hillel old wine comes for Kiddush? Because wine is taught here. The Khan here too. Or the Yain Tadira Vavdola ain't a Tadira. Since wine is prevalent and Avdola is not, Hayayin Koidim, wine should come first. From both of their statements, we learn the exact opposite. Yain Vavdola, Avdola Koidim. Havdalah should always come first. Why is that? Klum time the Beis Shammai, El Shekvan is Chai B'Kedushas Yom Shlo B'Yayin. The larger Beis Shammai is the Chai B'Kiddush before wine comes stable. The Khan here, holding is Chai B'Havdalah. All right, true, you made Havdalah already davening, but the pshat is you're Chai B'Havdalah before you got to the wine. So therefore, since you're Nischai Havdalah Shlo B'Yayin, Havdalah Kodemis, Havdalah comes first. Similarly, Klum Ta'id Beisil, why is Beisil by Kiddush that the wine comes first? El Shayayin going to Kedushas Hayom is taking the other logic of Beisil, that the wine causes the Kiddush to be stated. Kedushas Hayom Sheyisamer. The Khan here, Hoil, here it should be Ve'ein Hayayin Goy L'Havdalah Sheyisamer. The wine doesn't cause the Havdalah to be said, because he said Havdalah already in davening. Right? So therefore, Havdalah Kodemis, Havdalah should come first. Rabbi Zira said, from both of their statements, we learn Mavdilim below Yain can make Havdalah without wine. Of course, because we make Havdalah in Shmon Esrei. And precisely because Havdalah does not require wine, there's another byproduct of that halacha, which is, well, we'll see in a minute. You can only make Kiddush and wine. Because obviously they both held wine and the Kiddush is integrally linked. He died to the Rabbi Zira, and this is the underlies the opinion of Rabbi Zira. Rabbi Zira Amar Mavdil Sheikh, you make Havdalah on beer, because he held the wine and Havdalah are not integrally connected, as opposed to Kiddush, which is integrally connected to wine. Okay, Rabbi Yisrael Rabun. Rabbi Yisrael Rabun said, "Nagin Tamon, they have a minig in Bavel, but Malcolm Shein Yain in the place where there's no wine." To the best of my recollection, is not put down the Bavli, only Yerushalmi here, that Shliach Tzibur Yorlifnei Ateva, the Shliach Tzibur goes after Shmon Esrei, Friday night, and he said, V'omer Bracha Chas Mein Sheva, he says, the Bracha Mein Sheva, what we say still with Magin Avos and all that, V'chleiti Mekadosh Yisrael V'yomer Shabbos. So we don't say Mekadosh Yisrael, right? We say Mekadosh Shabbos. But in any event, I think that the main Sheva's source is over here. Do you remember the Bavli? The main Sheva is mentioned explicitly anywhere? I don't think it's mentioned. So I think this is the source. Okay? So it's interesting. They used to do it in lieu of Kiddush because they didn't have wine. And they made it Takon say in Shul. But even though we have Kiddush, and many people even make Kiddush in Shul, nonetheless we say main Sheva as well. Okay, now we go on the Seder. If you look in front of Yerokos for Chazeres, they bring in front of the guy vegetables and chrein. The top of Chazeres, he dips in the Chazeres for karpas. Achmagil parperes apas until he reaches the parperes apas, meaning the appetizer, which is again chrein after the motzi. Okay, if you look in front of Matzav Chazeres, they bring in front of him after he makes the karpas, matzah and chazeres and charoses. After you show charoses mitzvah, no charoses not a mitzvah. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Tzadok Omer, mitzvah, it is a mitzvah. Over mikdash, we in front of gufo shel Beis and Beis HaMikdash, they bring the gufo shel Pesach. Chavrayim Shem Yoel says, tzorech l'taba b'chazer shnei pamim. He held to use chrein for karpas as well. They actually use chrein for karpas. Rabbi Zira Shem Yoel said, ain't tzorech l'taba b'chazer shnei pamim. No, you don't use chrein twice, once for karpas, one for more. Hashem Elohecha Shomer Amar im lo tov al pam rishoina. You only have to do it once. But if you didn't do it the first time, then you do it the second time. Tov al pam shnia. Says more, whoa! Masnisa pliur Hashem ben Lakish. Rabbi Shem, it happens, according to Hashem Lakish, there's only one hatbala the night of Pesach. And if you did chrein and karpas together, that works. So according to we have a big kasha on Reish Lakish from the Manishtana, right? Masnisa pliur Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Shebechol l'losun mat bilim pamachas v'alayla zeh shtei piyamim. According to Reish Lakish, it's not true. Reish Lakish only taiva once. If you didn't taiva the first time in chrein, then you do it the second time, but you only have to taiva once. Says the Gemara, so Reish Lakish al hadod bar kapora. Reish Lakish holds like bar kapora. The next 5 words we take out. Let's Lieberman and a couple of and the Meicham Mayim. He has had a different kash than Manishtana. Ganz and different. Every time we dip with bread. And now we dip a vegetable by itself. So according to him, the shiur is not that there are two dips. The shiur is it's a different type of dip that we normally dip. We normally dip bread in of itself. Now we do bread with vegetables, so you dip the bread too. Here we're dipping the vegetables by themselves. That's the shiur. Masisa pli Rabbi Yochanan. Now the Brisa argues Rabbi Yochanan. The following Brisa. Rabbi Yochanan knows that mitzvahs don't require kavana, and well, we'll see. Let's see what the Brisa says. The Brisa one says you be mitzvahs without kavana. Yaitze matzah, even you're mechavin or not, you don't need kavana to be yaitze mitzvah matzah. So if that's the case, how come you have to do more or twice? According to Rabbi Yochanan. Even though you weren't mechavin, when you did the karpas, do mora, should be yaitze with that. Because mitzvah saying tzrichus kavana. Says, well, no, really, Rabbi Yochanan, mitzvahs require kavana. Hi! How yaitze the matzah if you didn't have kavana? So he says, because you recline when you ate the matzah, stam das is that you're to be to the mitzvah. So that's why he holds that by matzah, even if it's not kavana, the fact that you're reclining indicates you intend to eat matzah. That does not apply by morar, and therefore, if you ate morar for the karpas, if you ate it without kavana, you have to eat it again for the morar later on. What? Because you don't do it in a way which indicates you're fulfilling the mitzvah morar. The fact that you recline when you eat matzah indicates you're doing it to fulfill the mitzvah.
So by karpas, you are reclining.
No, you don't have to recline by karpas. And even if you do, you don't have to recline by morar. Right. So the reclining by karpas doesn't indicate anything about the mitzvah. Okay, but it's different midogim. You don't have to recline by karpas. Generally speaking, no. So you're not going to say different things, but that means you don't have to. Okay. Says Gemara further, Mesa Rabbi Yirmiyah Kuli Rabbi Zira. Rabbi Yirmiyah asks for Rabbi Zira, Masisa Plino Shimon Lakish. The fine bright star is Shimon Lakish. What does it say? Have you ever matzah chazeres charos? They brought matzah chazeres charos after they already did the karpas. So it sounds like you have to do a second dip. One dip is not sufficient. Alo bishin charos is mitzvah, chazeres mitzvah. And it says, okay, charot's not a mitzvah, but it sounds like the chazeres itself is a mitzvah to do over again. On my lace, they said, no, shken ra metabe b'trodim. I'm just talking about where you use yerokos for the karpas. Like Rav used to use beets for the karpas. But in a chanami, according to Rabbi Shlomo, say if you use mora for the karpas, you don't have to do a second dip later on for the mora. Tagor Yerushalmi, the sales of Yerushalmi, they say, both luachem tavli mitzvah. Come and take herbs for the mitzvah. Now this is talking about the charosis. They call it the tavli mitzvah because, according to some interpretations, it means because they wanted to make sure people bought the herbs for charosis. Nashmiel says they gave it out for free. He said in his day there was a custom, I guess in Pittsburgh, to give out charosis for free. One guy would make charosis and give it for free to the whole community. Can't tell. So he says that they don't really give it for free. But they don't want to give it free. They said this is the makor for such a thing because it says they would say we'll give it l'shem shamayim as long as you do the mitzvah of charosis. B'nei Beisei de Isei. B'shem Isei, the members of the house of Isei, I assume means the women of the household. The name of Isei said v'lomani kros shma should be ducha. It's a mistake. It should be ducha. Why is the charos called ducha? Because you press the mara. Ducha means pressed. Because you press the mara into the charosis. Rabbi Shulman Levi Amar tzricha shetei ava. The charosis has got to be thick. Milsa Amar, his statement indicates zech l'teeth, that it commemorates the teeth. In fact, the Lieberman brings to the Rav Yah that charosis is called charosis because it's the same, similar to charosis. And charosis means plaster, which is a building material. Istani Tani, those that say the next word is a type also should be tzricha. Tzricha shetei raka, it's got to be soft. Why does it have to be soft? Milsu Amar zech l'odam, because it's red and reminds us of the blood in Egypt. Tani, we learned Ubikvulin outside the base Hamikdash, Tzricha Shnei Tavshilim, you have to have 2 Tavshilim on your Seder plate. Echad Zecher LePesach, V'echad Zecher LeChagiga, 1 the shank bone and 1 the egg for the Pesach and the Chagiga commemoration. Mosgulo Kosher they pour a second cup. The kind of ben shol now the kid asks. He main das from ben lishol. If he doesn't have das to ask, Aviv Lamdo, his father teaches him. I think the table's falling. Check the other side, see if the table is falling. Short it up. Okay. If the kid doesn't know how to ask, so then Avim Lamdo's father teaches him. We meat which is roasted, cooked, overcooked, and regular cooked because of Korban Pesach. And based on the intelligence of the son, his father responds to him. He starts with the bad things of the son and ends with the good things. Anybody didn't say these 3 things on Pesach? Pesach matzah morim. Pesach sheish Pesach ha'mokom v'ati avseinu Mitzrayim. Matzah sheim shenigulu avseinu b'Mitzrayim. Moro sheim shemuru Mitzrayim Mitzrayim avseinu Mitzrayim. B'chol dor v'dor, I'm just not translating because it's all not going. B'chol dor v'dor chayav odam liros esatzmo kilu hu yotzor miMitzrayim. Shemar v'yigato b'ncho b'yom u'leimor ba'avur ze asa Shem li b'tzeis Mitzrayim l'firanach onu chayav lo dosu l'halel l'sharbeach l'foel l'rovim l'atzeach u'legado mishos ha'loros kol nizim ha'elu v'otziyonim me'avdus l'cheirus v'noma elfanav halulucha. Okay? Now, here comes the fascinating part. Ready for this one, guys? Tani Rabbi Chia, Keneged Arba Bonim Dibra Torah. Remember that from the Seder? Well, it ain't the way you remembered it here. Just wait. But it's not in the. It's not in the Bavli. It's in the Mechilta. Our version goes in Mechilta, but the Bavli, Yerushalmi is a different version. Ben Chacham, Ben Rasha, Ben Tipesh, Ben Chenu Yodei Lishol. Okay? Ben Tipesh means a stupid kid. Not Tub. We don't mince any words in the Yerushalmi. Ben Chacham, Ma'oemer, where's Chacham say? Ma'ariyas l'chukim ha'mishpatim ha'sher tzivah Hashem Elokeinu osanu. What do you answer him? Va'afato emer lo b'choizek yad otzienu Hashem Mitzrayim beis avodim. Oh, he says it's Chem and Agora? Oh, a good point. But I was focusing more on the answer. It's not the same answer we give. What do we give? It's coming up. Guess who gets that answer? Wait till you see. Russia, no. Russia, Ma'omer, Ma'avodazos Lochem. Now, the truth is, you're right. The Girs in the Baal Yerushalmi answers up the question that he also says that the Chacham also says it's Chem. He does say Osanu. So the proper Girs would be Osanu. Right, so there's no Kasha. Kasha the Velt asked that Russia says Lochem and the Chacham also says it's Chem. It's not. He says Osanu and the Russia says Lochem. Okay, but the answer for him is the same answer we give. Well, first of all, we explain his questions. What's this hassle with Pesach every year? We came with Shotzi Yisatsu that close since he took himself out of the community. Avatar Morlo. So you say, Bavur Zah Hashem Li. Li Asa. To me. Lo Soish Lo Asa, not to you. Iloyo Soish Mitzrayim, we were in Egypt. Loya Roy Ligor Misham Yom, he would never have been suitably redeemed. Tipesh Ma'oemer. Mazos, what's this? Avatar Limdo Ilchos HaPesach Shemaftirim Achar Pesach Afikoimon. Since he's an idiot, he might say, let's go to the other Chabur to eat the Korban Pesach. So you have to teach him, you can't say after you finish the Pesach, come out of here. Right.
you're saying. You can't.
No, it's the next one. They shouldn't go from one chabur to another chabur. So that's the answer to the tipesh. Forget all this drushes about why it's the answer for the rocham. It ain't. So the answer to the tipesh. What are you going to teach him? At least tell him not to go to the other chabur with the Korban Pesach. Okay? Ben Sheni Yodei Lishol Ad Pesach Lo. You open for him Tchila. Amar Rabbi Yisrael Masnisa Amar Kate. Amen. No das. If it ain't das, it has no das. Aviv Melam, but ain't das Ben Aviv Melamto. His father teaches him. What part of how do you say before the meal? First paragraph. The second paragraph. Then you say the Bir Sagula. Right before the second coast, we say. Right, time of sugar one of goes. I was saying, sorry. We don't finish the bracha with a signature. Right, we keep on there. The adds. Kein Hashem Elokei Yageinu L'Goyim Ha'Abayim L'Kraseinu L'Shalom Smeichim B'Vinyan Yirecha Sosim B'Avodasecha U'V'Chidush Beis Mikdoshecha. We don't have that. L'Shalom L'Cham Min HaPsachim Min HaZvachim Asher Yigir Damo Makim B'Zbacha Chol L'Chotzon V'No L'Chal Gulaseinu Baruch Ato Hashem Goal Yisrael. We do finish like that.
I forgot to mention this. Also,
Yeah.
going back to the end of the mission of the fire mission,
Right, she would say shiur chadasha. Right.
Jesus mentioned that in the commentary. Here, there's another gears by us in this mission about what is Zvachim for Pesach.
Right. Let's have to Motzei Shabbos when there's no Zvachim. Motzei Shabbos no Zvachim because we don't sacrifice Chagiga when Pesach comes on Shabbos. So that's when we switch it. I think that's the issue. Okay, so this is the version we use on Motzei Shabbos. Min ha-Pesachim, min ha-Zvachim. We say Zvachim and Pesachim when a regular year, because then he could makriv Chagigas. But you say Pesachim and Zvachim when a year when he can't be makriv Chagigas. So Zvachim doesn't refer to Chagiga, but some other korban in the future. Okay, Rav Amar mitchila tzarich la'aschil you have to start be'evanar yoshvo avosechem li'olam terchav v'yavrom etc. Lekach zarvichem eir anor v'gomer v'arbe zaro, right? Just says the word v'arbe, but that's how it goes on. Rabbi Yocha says that's the kri, it's red v'arbe, but the ksiv is v'arev ksiv. What does it mean instead of v'arbe? What is the kri? What does the ksiv connote? The way it's written without the hey. How many arguments? Meaning that I tested Avraham many times. Until I gave you Yitzchak. Another interpretation, fascinating one theologically. I ambushed Avraham Avinu. Now, Orev is somebody who ambushes. And I said, give me Avraham Nisyonis Yisrael. If he sinned, I'll give it to him because it's mechaber nazaveres. And if he didn't do any sins, I'll give me Yisurim also. Why? Because then these Yisurim are lishma, Yisurim shalava. So no matter what, it's good for Avraham Avinu to get Yisurim and Yisurim, if whether he deserves them for chatoim or not. Very interesting phenomenon. Too bad we don't have time to discuss it. Only Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai said, getting back to our Mishnah, how can you say B'tei Yisrael Mitzrayim before the meal? V'chiyatzu Yisrael Mitzrayim Shumazki Yitzis Mitzrayim. Beis Shammai, you can only say B'tei Yisrael Mitzrayim after Chatzos, because only then did the Geula process begin after Makas B'cheres. So they say, how can you say B'tei Yisrael Mitzrayim before Chatzos, before the meal? Amlan Beis Hillel said, Hilumati across a gather. Even you wait till the rooster crows in the morning. You still haven't reached halfway through the gula because they left at midday the next day. So how can you mention it all, right? They went out half the midway day the next day. Since you began the mitzvah, we tell him to conclude it. Meaning that even though it's not yet the time, it's not going to be the time all night. So every might as well mention B'tei Yisrael Mitzrayim. Hey, Sir Rabbi Avuna Bar Schleira, look where he's Kiralakos. I don't understand. Why do you have to mention it now? Mention it after benching. You want to mention Tzias Mitzrayim for the meal? You already mentioned Kiddush. So why do you have to mention it now in the Dafka and Hala? The Gemara doesn't give an answer. Tanya, Anarim Zman, peripheral sugya. Anarim Zman El B'Shlosh Goyim. You say Shechion on three Tovim Bilvad. Amrai Monamasi, some it's a price like that. Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, and Chag HaSukkos. Tanya, we learned in another brisa though. Kol Shekasa Mikro Kodesh. Anytime which the Chumash calls a Mikro Kodesh, Tzarech Lasker Bilzman, you have to say Shechionu. What's that? What is that at Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? Because Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur are not regolim, but they're called in the Torah Mikro Kodesh, so you have to say Shechionu on them as well. Rabbi Tchum says Vios, it makes sense. Why is that? Because even if it's not a yontif, in the sense of a regel, Misharot Teina B'Chayra, somebody sees the first growing fig in his tree. Shemein Atzorach Lahil Haskir Man. Doesn't he have to make a Shechionu? Even if you're not eating it, because it's a new season. So Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur are no worse than that. You're going to something new, you make a Shechionu on it. Okay? Period. Now we have a question. The elder Farshim say the next part of the Mishnah is totally superfluous here. And just brought down here because we mentioned Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. And it has to do with the question of Lotis Go to do. Not to do different minhagim in different places. The same place. So that's why Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur and Biyud, we had this early in the Masechta, as you see in the Masechta shots on the side. So Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur and Yehuda Nagu Rabbi Akiva. Yehuda did like Rabbi Akiva that they blew Tkiyas for Malchias. And Begolah Nagu Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri that they didn't blow Tkiyas for Malchias. So why is that not Lotis Go to do? How can you have two different minhagim in the same country? Because it says, well, because it's not so good fairlich. Because if you reverse the order, nobody holds you're not Yoitzi Shoifer. So therefore it's not good fairlich to have two different minhagim. What about Harei Purim? We have different places. Some places do Yudal, some places do Antes Vav. That's Lotis Go to do. Agudas, different groups. Says the Gemara, Shanya either it's a special Harei Purim El Kurim Bar Arbos or El Kurim Bar Chamisha, special dispensation there. Shanya either see Mishpacha, Medina, ear for ear. They're Purim focused, Milchatchila, and having different ways of fulfilling the Yontif for various different populations. I don't know. You have to make a better case for that. Well, you got the Megillah maybe, but you need a writer for that. That's Rishon stuff. You're Rishoning. I understand. I'm just saying. I'm assuming that it is something about walled and unwalled cities because I never heard of such a thing before. But maybe we'll come across it. Megillah's coming up. Another 3 months. Mazlo Koshlishi. They pour for him a third cup. Mevarich Hamazona, then he benches on that cup. Reveal the fourth cup, Gormila Vasali, complete the howl on it. Gormila Birkas Hashin, he say the final bracha Nagora. Bein HaKoselo, between the third and fourth cup, between the first and second cup, or the second and third cup. Actually, he's not to drink. But as the Gemara will say, he might get drunk and fall asleep. After Pesach, you can't do Afikoyman. Several pshatim the Gemara will give. It says, before Pchos B'Yisrael, when disturbances occur in Am Yisrael, but in a good sense, they're miracles which occur in Am Yisrael. Bisnadevam, when the nation volunteers, Baruch Hu es Hashem, you bless God. We dash this pasuk. Hisnadvu Roshayam, volunteer the heads of the nation. It's a command. Volunteer the heads of a nation. When God makes you nisim, to who amrim shira, say shira. So from here we say the chiyuv of Hallel to whenever a nace befalls the Jews. Says the Gemara, Sivon asks, wait a second. That's the case. Hare Gulas Mitzrayim. What about Gulas Mitzrayim? We don't say Hallel Gulas Mitzrayim. Say Hallel the night before, but not during the day. Why don't we say it during the day? Shani Shitchias Gulas. So Gemara answers, no. It's only the beginning of the Gula. The Gula is actually completed on 7th day when Kriyas Yamsuf takes place, and then Taka B'nai Yisrael sang Oz Yoshir Moshe. What about our Mordechai Vester? We don't say Gula on Purim. We don't say Hala. Shani Shriyu b'chutz la'aretz. They're in chutz la'aretz. These the boy and Meiman. Some said wanted to say that. Well, obviously don't say Nesan Hala Nation chutz la'aretz. Some said that like the Bobby says, Akati Akde Achashverosh Ronan Slavayim Achashverosh Mordechai Vester Misonem Nigalu. They were redeemed from their enemies, but Lo Nigalu Min HaMalchus. But they were still under subjugation of Achashverosh. Now Lieberman says the Kasha about Mitzrayim should come after this. It says with the Kasha about Mitzrayim, we have 3 lines ago. Steven Regulus Mitzrayim is really so. If you can't say Nesa Hallel on a nation b'chutz la'aretz, how can we say Hallel on Yitzias Mitzrayim? Right? Because it's the nation chutz la'aretz. And on that Gemara answers Shani Shitchilas Kulasim, which the Gemara, the Bavli Megillah, in fact says that since that's before they entered Eretz Yisrael, so they were entitled to say Hallel even on nation chutz la'aretz then. Yeah, in the Megillah. Yeah, that's one of the answers given in Megillah. Not given here, right? I don't know, it might be given in Megillah here, we don't know yet, but it's not given here. Okay. Lama, why can't you drink between the 3rd and 4th cup? You shouldn't get drunk and fall asleep. He's already drunk! He has a few cups already under his belt. What do you expect? So it says, well, no, Ma bin Yaim is Shabatocha Mosen. This is part of the question. So Ma bin Yain Shabatocha Mosen, Ma bin Yain Shachar Mosen. Why let him drink in the meal, and now you let him drink after the meal? Yain Shlachar Mosen Mishakir. No.
Wine consumed without any food makes you drunk. Shabatocha Mosen, when you consume within the meal, Eino Mishakir doesn't make you drunk. I know, I manage on pouring quite fine during the meal, but that's what it says here. Ma'afi Koyman. What's afikoyman that you can't do after the Pesach? I've seen Hashem Rav Inene Bar Rabbi Sisi said, Mine Zemer. Take out the musical instruments. Now, the way Lieberman explains that, of course, based on that, you're not going to take a musical instrument. That the Greeks, after a party, would take out their instruments and go from door to door to have to be Marba Simcha or Hololus, actually. So he says we can't do that because you can't go from Chabura to Chabura. So we can't say Afikuman, take out the musical instruments to go from Chabura to Chabura. That's one shot, which is in line with what we learned earlier about telling the Tipei Shem Aftir Nachar Pesach Afikoman. Now we have a couple other shots we're more familiar with. Rabbi Yochanan Marmina Mesika, you can't take out candies after, no Seder mints after the Afikoman. That's it. It's over. Rabbi Shmuel Amar Kiwara Medina Masika going Ardile Viguzlaya, little delicacies made out of little types of birds, the Chanani Bashilas, which was the dessert of Chanani Bashilas. Okay, Yerushalmi Pesachim, a part of the guys there fell asleep. Yochlu, they continue to eat when they wake up, the Korban Pesach. If they fell asleep, they can't eat it anymore. That's it. As long as they had kazayas already, of course. If they just dozed off, Yochlu continue eating. Near them, if they fell asleep, they can't continue eating. Now, wouldn't you know the Masechta ends with something difficult? Pesach after Chatzos is metame the hands. Va'apigol va'anoitzer metame the hands. Birach birkas ha-Pesach pater shel zevach. You make a bracha in the Pesach, the zevach, the chagiga, doesn't need a separate bracha. As shel zevach, you made a bracha in the chagiga in the Pesach when the Beis HaMikdash existed. Lo pater shel Pesach doesn't exempt the Pesach. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel kon Rabbi Shmuel. Akiva Omer lo zu pater is the zu, lo zu pater is the zu. Neither exempt each other. They're so different. Each requires its own korban, own bracha. Ask Mar Lama. Why, if somebody fell asleep, can they not? Why, if they fell asleep, can they not continue to eat? Mivnei hesiach das, which is saying is hesiach das, because they already were mesiach das, continue to eat. It's like when a person says, "I want a bench," and he can't eat anymore. Falling asleep is tantamount to the same thing. Or because they fell asleep until after midnight. Which one is it? Says my God, let's imagine, let's understand the Mishnah. Sheishom Chabura Acheres. The Mishnah doesn't say that you're the only Chabura there. Maybe there's another Chabura in the room, and there must be Chatzos hasn't passed yet. And yet it says you're Chabura, since you fell asleep you can't eat. have a lace tama hadar elimine siyadas. It must be because of hesach hadas. Once you fell asleep, it's as if you finish Mesiach Das, you can't continue eating. Rabbi Simon Shem Shumalim, now we had it through the Masechta, and it was hard then, and it's hard now. I'll try and get through it quickly in order to try and make the siyum. Rabbi Simon Shem Shumalim said, Ha-pigul v'anoiser mitzdarfin tamis yadayim. Pigul and noser, even though they're two separate psulei aguf, they're mitzdarif together to tamis yadayim. K'dei onshon, in the shiur of what you get punished for consuming from them, kazais. So if you have half a kazais to pigul, and half a kazais to noser, and they join together, so that, and you touch them, your hands become tamei, and then your hands in turn will be matame truma. Ma'ashif sosa truma. As for what if this pigul noser burger touches truma, does it make the truma tamei? Says more kavachomer. If the pigul noser burger is matame the hands, which then are the leaf sosa truma, then pasul truma in turn. If the pigul noser burger directly touches the truma, lo koshke is not a kavachomer, then it makes the truma pasul. Says more, okay, that's fine for pigul noser. What's the status of something which left the Beis HaMikdash or left Yerushalayim, something which left the proper precincts where it's supposed to be? Metamis yadayim ain't metamis yadayim. Is the time in the hands or not? If you're going to say that yoytze is metamis yadayim, so it must be. And the question the Gemara implies here, though it doesn't have it, is, look, if you ate the Tami Yadayim, half of the Aver left the Beis HaMikdash, right? Half of it didn't, right? So why is this half, which is Yod say, not Matame this? Whatever stayed behind within the Beis HaMikdash. And that's, we really should, it must be, that it's not Matame Yadayim. Tema Ein Yotze Matamas Yadayim, so then, one second. And it's not matame the inside. It's not matame the inside. And now read the words 2 lines down. The lo kain yitame tzad chitza mitzad pnimi. Because if it was matame, it should be matame not just the outside but the inside as well. So if you're going to say that Yaitz is matame yadayim, but yet nevertheless not matame kachim, so going back to where we are, ha'pigul v'anoiser in place of Mr. Truma. So pigul noiser can't pasul truma. What's the logic behind that? If Yaitz is matame yadayim, yet it's not matame kachim, meaning the part next to it. So pigul and noiser, right, certainly can't be matame truma. Pigul and noiser, which truma is less sensitive than kochim, right? Truma is only a shlishim kodesh, kochim is revi'ah b'kodesh. So if Yotze can't be matame what's next to the kochim, pigul noiser should certainly not be matame truma, right? But that causes us a conundrum. It says because in turn, Yotze always has to be not as tamei as pigul and noiser. Because as we mentioned earlier, the pigul noiser are psul aguf, and Yotze is a psul machshir. It's a quasi psul, not a full psul. So since it's a quasi psul, not a full psul, so I got a problem. If you're going to say pigul and noiser are not even matame truma, because Yotze is not matame kochim, so then Yotze can't be tamei anything. Because Yotze's got to be a lower level down than pigul and noiser. So pigul and noiser are only matame yadayim, and not matame truma, so Yotze can't be matame anything, not even yadayim. Yeah, we know Yotze is matame yadayim. So how to resolve this conundrum? So says the Gemara, I'll tell you. Rabbi Avin said, skipping the words I read before, Man islay dover machmas maga atzmo. Who's the one who holds that something which touches itself is metame? Lo Rabbi Meir, is it Rabbi Meir? Rabbanon don't hold that way. Rabbanon, the reason why the part which exited isn't metame, the part which remained inside is because something can't be metame itself.
In order to be matame something, it has to touch something else, not be part and parcel the same. So it could be really yoytze is matame kachim, and pigul and nois is even matame truma, and they're both matame yadayim. And the stature is preserved, the hierarchy that pigul and nois are more tame than yoytze is preserved, because pigul and nois are against the tame even truma, and yoytze is only matame kachim. Again, they're both matame yadayim. So why is yoytze not matame itself? Because the something is not matame itself, it's only matame something you touched. Okay? Says the Gemara, V'lokin and Rabbi Yochanan says, okay, fine. That's nice, but I have another problem. The Rabbi Yochanan says, Kol advarim ha'torim berubar. Everything which is Torah of that nature is as long as the majority is attached. You're cutting off the yoytze part, right? You're cutting it off because you can't eat it. So as you cut, when you get to sever the majority of your arm, well, not your arm, the carbon's arm, then this part is touching this part. Because it's severed, its majority, so then it's matame, right? So it says, so came shechitek ruban like a parashu, right? Once you cut the majority, it's not like parash. V'yasa k'magia bo should be touch itself ye apostle, and she considered apostle. Rabbi Chanina said, "B'mechatech kol shehu mashlich." As you cut each strip, as you cut down each strip, you take off. So there's never actually anything which can touch, which is severed, because each part which is severed, you cut off. So then everything which is there is still connected, and that can't be matame. So that's how you preclude that from happening. Now the next two lines are redundant. We read them before. Isach Meimer, Lieberman takes them out. Hajjalach Lieberman is the last Lieberman we'll see. So, there's one more. So he takes out next line, Isach Meimar, Oshavar Chatzos, Imnei Yisiyah Das, every little place time Imnei Yisiyah Das, we already explained that. Amar Rabbi Zira. Rabbi Zira said, and here's the last Lieberman. He says, Lo mistabra da. He puts in the words Lo mistabra. Lo mistabra da ella. It doesn't make sense to say only Birach Birkas HaPesach Lo Pater Shol Zevach. I understand the Mishnah. How can the Mishnah Pasi say that Pesach Pater Zevach? They're so different. Rabbi Kiva is correct. It only makes sense to say the opposite. Birach Birkas HaPesach Lo Pater Shol Zevach. V'Shol Zevach Pater HaPesach. Only made the bracha on Zevach is more inclusive than Pesach, right? Because Zevach is all korbanos. Pesach is particular. It's only particular korbanos, right? So the Mishnah makes no sense. The Mishnah says he made a bracha on Pesachim, it paters on Zvachim. But it should be the opposite. What's more inclusive? Zvachim. So Zvachim should pater on Pesachim, right? So what does the Mishnah mean? Ramona said, no, you're missing the boat. HaPesach Ikar V'ata Zevach Tfeilah. Well, this is the din of Ikar and Tofel. It's like eating herring with a cracker, right? You don't make a bracha on the cracker, you only make a bracha on the herring. So even though you bring chagigas tonight to Pesach, they're only subordinate to the current Pesach. In order the current Pesach should be nechal al soiva. So that's why you make a bracha on the Pesach and you pater the zevach. Oh, Rabbi said, Ajulach b'seres p'sachim v'ajolah and dailom b'seres p'sachim b'sachim v'atoch lor lo nisas shem noch b'seres p'sachim lo tisha shnei minon lo ba'amodeim lo ba'dasi.